going to discuss how water gets into your basement, what the sources of the water are. The first one is surface water, which is water that obviously runs across the surface. Also groundwater, which fancy word for it is hydrostatic pressure. Best example I can use for that is like a sponge. Your soil is kind of like a sponge around your house. You can see this new sponge has got good consistency and it's good and firm, and this is the way you want your soil. Now, if you leave this out in the sun for any length of time, the sponge will actually dry up and shrink. Conversely, if you put it under water and start pouring water on it, you get heavy, start spreading out. That's kind of what your soil does, creating hydrostatic pressure. And that's just a fancy word for the soil being completely saturated. Now, hydrostatic pressure can be enough to bow in a wall. It can mess up your footing. It's a dangerous thing. It's not something to take lightly. And then there is the water table. Now in Kentucky, we have what I call a false water table sometimes. The best example I can use is if you've ever driven down the interstate, and you'll see water coming out here and it'll be dry, and then water over here, water over here. That's a false water table or a spring that's following the rock ledges. If your house is in the way of one of those, you're going to get a whole lot of water. But that's what I'm calling the water table, because the water table is down there someplace, and the more rain and stuff we get and the streams start feeding it, it'll build up. So what you're having with your home is sort of a squeeze play. Let's say your house is on a slope, move it up, well, we'll do another one where the house is built on the level. Now, first thing they would do is dig this out to the basement. Once that's dug out, it immediately starts attracting water. Water will seek the path of least resistance. Anytime there's a hole in the ground, water's going to start going to it. When God invented the earth, He didn't really plan on us making foundations, digging holes for it. But what happens when this gets here is this day and age are what they call dig the footers. And on this house over here, say this is the other house, will form the footer. I prefer form footers to footers that are dug out, but it's much cheaper to do the dig out, or what we call a scoop footer. And then you'll have your wall built up on it, hopefully straighter than that. We just call this a concrete wall, and over here we'll make it a block wall. Now this is called the foundation wall. This is the footer. When it's first dug, they'll put a coating on the outside of the wall. Now, a lot of builders use anything that's black that'll meet code. What we use is a product that will expand and contract up to 1/4 inch, and it's like a rubbery material when it dries. But the average home, they put this on here and they'll put a footer drain. Now the ideal footer drain is at the base of the footer. And they put gravel over it, and they of course fill the dirt in. The problem is this dirt is much looser than original dirt, so this water that's feeding in, either surface water or this hydrostatic pressure off of the soil, or the water table that's rising out here somewhere. So you kind of get a squeeze play with a lot of water that's coming down to your foundation. Now, the problem with this, with the scoop footer, they have to put the footer drain on top of the footer. That is not the ideal place because it allows water to seep in between the wall and the footing. Down here, if it's done properly, you'll prevent that. But they have to put some type of cove or something on it to divert that water so it doesn't go between the wall and the footer. And over a period of time, these drains will plug. And also the coating, if it doesn't expand and contract, will lose its elasticity, especially in a block wall, because blocks breathe. Poured wall will crack. At least a little movement and you'll see cracks in a poured wall. Any of those become a water entry point. Okay? So in essence, you've got 5 different sources of water. You can have water come through the wall. Yep, if I could spell, wouldn't it? I'm trying to put Thursday on it. Through the wall. You can have water coming over the footer. You can have water that comes under the footer. You can also have water, what we call the cove, which is this point here, where your new floor, the basement floor, will be poured up next to it. You will have a cove here. So we'll put through the cove. And then the 5th way is through cracks, floor cracks. So these are the 5 major ways that you get water into the basement. Let's say your house is 20 years old. Any house will leak when the defenses on the outside are not strong enough to keep the water pressure out. The National Association of Home Builders claim that 85% of all basements leak. I think the other 15% just not being honest, or they haven't had it yet. I think any basement is at any point in time. I've had basements that are 30 and 40 years old, and people say, well, why is it leaking now? It's because these defenses finally break down. The better the builder does at putting the outside footer drain, the better you are running the waterway. Same with the sealant.